Okay, let's talk soil blocks. I definitely love soil blocks. It took me a couple years to get used to them. Not a couple years, I should say a couple growing seasons to get used to them. When I say get used to them, I loved them pretty much immediately, but there was a bit of a learning curve. How to water them, how to keep them from drying out, how to keep them from crumbling, and also the timing, which I'm still kind of getting used to. And when I say timing, I mean when to plant so that the roots or that the plants don't get too big for the little block. You can see back here, my tomatoes are all in pots now, and that's because they were just getting too big for the soil blocks and they needed more nutrients than what the soil blocks could hold. More room as well. Of course, more room means they're going to get bigger. So I might have to report back to you next year because I'm going to try to plant some of what I did this year a little bit later next year. We'll see how that goes. So I have an empty tray there. Can't have an empty tray. So I'm going to make some soil blocks and I'm going to show you how I do it. Let me get to work. This is my soil bucket, which is normally what I would make my soil blocks in. But I've got a lot of soil in there for potting, for up potting a lot of the plants that I started in blocks already. So I don't want to get that too saturated. For soil blocks, you need your soil to be much wetter than you would normally use it for potting. So I've moved it up to here. And I still think this is a little bit too dry. But can you hear it? See all that water when I press down into it? It actually needs a little bit more. Let me add some water. Because I'm doing only a small batch, it actually is going to take me longer than if I did it in this big batch. But it is what it is. So you're not seeing my system of making a ton at one time. I'm probably only going to make about 36 blocks. So that's not a lot. Okay, that's wet enough. You want the consistency of brownie batter. I guess that's as close as we can get to liking it to something we're all familiar with. It's not exactly brownie batter though. So these were printed. It's still dirty from last time I used it. Miller printed these out on his 3D printer for me. But you can buy these. I mean, I think you can find them on any garden website. Gardeners.com, I'm sure would have them. Okay, so you hear it? Squishy. And so you're just pressing down with the soil block to fill it, kind of compress the soil in there. See how much water is left behind? And so to really get it compressed, you press down. And let me see if I can show you without my hands being in the way. All right, try to look. Let's see. Try to watch right there and see if water comes out. Yeah, see how much water comes out? And then you press the handle and you've got a soil block. The potting mix that I am using is actually a seed starting. It's kind of like an all-purpose. I shouldn't even say seed starting. It's like an all-purpose mix. It's compost based, so there's chunks in it. So it's not, I don't love it for seed starting, although I shouldn't say that because most of my seeds have come up and they're happy and beautiful, so maybe it is great. But you don't want to use straight up potting soil for soil blocks. You want to look around and see if you can find online. You'll find actual recipes to make your own soil mix for blocks. When you get the soil, it's really dry. So I put it in that gray bin of mine and I pour the water in and then I walk away for, I could walk away for the whole day if it's, you really want to get the water saturated. Or I'm sorry, you want to get the soil saturated. Okay, so see, this is a watery, soupy mess. So I'm going to add soil, mix some soil back in, add water, get back to what I need, the consistency that I need, and then start again. I just did 4 soil blocks with that amount of soil, so it is a lot of soil that you end up using. Maybe I can get one more out of it. But the wetter it is, when you go to compress it, the smaller your blocks will be. So when I say there's a learning curve, it's true. Like, you really just have to get the hang of it. The first year I did it, I wasn't perfect, but honestly, all of my plants came out fine. So it's not as difficult or as, you know, complicated as it might seem. It's just something that you have to do trial and error, and honestly, you'll catch on. You'll catch on quick. You might be wondering too, why I'm doing it on this foil tray. This is my, you know, it's just something that I salvaged from the garbage. But it has a flat bottom, and I think that's super important. I've seen people do this in like wheelbarrows and anything that's super flat. You don't want anything grooved or curved because you won't get a flat soil block that will be flat on the bottom. There were some questions that I had from the last gardening video I did. I showed you guys how I watered my seedlings. And I had some questions, and one of them was, how long do I let the plants set in the water? Because you saw me pour the water in, and then you saw me pour the water out into my water bucket. I let them, my routine for watering them is in the mornings, I make, you know, I get the water boiling for my coffee, and I come downstairs, I pour water into the plants, I go back upstairs, make my coffee, drink my coffee, get some knitting in, or stitching, whatever I'm into at the moment. And then it's time to get ready for my day. And so before I do all of that, I come back downstairs and I empty the trays. So they're only sitting in water from anywhere from a half hour to, I guess on days where I don't have to rush out, that could be an hour, hour and a half. Yeah, so that was a little short. That little square right here was a little bit shorter than this one, and that's because this is very wet, so I need more soil in there. So the plants are only sitting in water for a very short period of time. You don't want them sitting in water for too long. One, because it compromises the structure of the actual soil block. It'll get too soupy and fall apart. I learned that in the first year. Also, the plants themselves do not need that much water. I also learned that. I should say I'm still learning that. I have to pay attention to the clock. I hope I can get my seedlings in these. I'm going to see my daddy for lunch today. I thought I'd get this in before I left the house. In the beginning of the season, I make, I don't know how many of these at one time, a bunch. By the time you guys are seeing this, it might be May. I'm filming this in April. You can succession plant with your soil blocks very easily. You can start a lot of things from seed. A lot of things you can start even outside if you're protecting them. Last year, I think the last time I did soil blocks was end of, maybe even September. I may have been doing blocks all the way up until September. My last frost, my average last frost is October 25th, 27th, somewhere in there. Today's April 17th, and yesterday was our last average frost date. We had a bit of a frost last night, but whatevs. It's the day to celebrate. Okie doke. My soil blocks are done. I don't have time to plant them yet, so I'll do that this afternoon after I hang out with my dad. That's how I do it. I think I covered everything. Probably not, because. So if you do have any questions, comment below and we'll chat. Alrighty then. See you later.